Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening from Greece. Rania Meet, I'm a global STEM educator and researcher, Chief Executive Officer and Board Member of IIU and Country Director of IIU for Greece. Today, it's the second session of the new program, Coffee Showtime with Rania, which is organized and supported by IIU. And this new program tries to explore different fields through interviews with eminent personalities from various areas of human activities, and it aims to give the audience an overview and at the same time an in-depth analysis on the subject of the day. A lot of love has been invested in this project, and we hope that the outcome will match your expectations. I warmly thank IIU and especially Pius Pandey for launching this program. And IIU is the first virtual global university building a better and brighter future for all young learners and is committed to providing quality, accessible, affordable, skill-based virtual education to all the young learners of the globe with the aim to provide internship opportunities and research facilities. IIU is metamorphosing the conventional education system by cutting down the additional costs and providing access to more than 1,000 plus courses and internships to their e-learners across the globe. IIU has been accredited and affiliated with the World Education Organization and International Accreditation Organization and collaborated with all the world's top universities and educational institutions through the platform of massive open line courses. Today, IIU has spread its wings in 195 countries and 6 continents, and the person who is behind the success of IIU is none other than the founder of IIU, Pius Pandey. Sir, a committed and inspiring social activist, a passionate educationist from the last 2 decades, providing education to students from various social and cultural backgrounds, possessing excellent administrative, verbal communication, written skills, an excellent speaker and passionate writer, the founder of Spartan Bharat Parivar and chairman of Pius Group. Hats off his dedication and hard work. So today we're going to discuss about young dreams, about dreams of the young generation. We will talk about passion, what passion is, how we can ignite the passion in our children and students, and how we can motivate and inspire them. And we are extremely happy and honored to have with us a very special guest, an expert, a very distinguished personality in the field of industry and academia, Dr. Chris Sotiropoulos from Greece. He's Greek, but he lives and works in Australia. He's a very good friend, an amazing personality, researcher, speaker, and businessman. Dr. Chris Sotiropoulos has extensive expertise in global commercialization of innovative education, healthcare, and technology products and services. He serves as co-founder and CEO of Global Opportunities Commercialization, director of IPAC Health, both private companies that are Australian and deliver entrepreneurship, commercialization, advisory services, and their own products to national and international clients. He has taught at university entrepreneurship and MBA programs in the field of innovation, corporate strategy, and venture development. He is a frequent international speaker, speaking at forums in Europe, USA, India, Africa, Asia, and Australia on things including education models for emerging nations, youth and women empowerment, and each role in nation capability development. He serves on private and public governing boards and charities in several countries. He holds a PhD degree in molecular microbiology from RMIT University, a law degree from Monash University, executive training in leadership and strategy, pharmaceutical and biotech executive training from the Harvard Business School. So now I would like to welcome our special guest, dear Dr. Chris. Thank you very much for your invitation. How are you?
Rania, very well, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, as we all say these days. Thank you kindly for the opportunity to meet once again over coffee time and discuss issues which you and I and many others around the world feel is really important to identify different models, identify what practices, identify society contextualization. and then to design, try, redesign, reconfigure in order to build a class of passion for our young. So look forward to our discussions.
Oh. So, Dr. Chris, can you please give us a brief description about your amazing journey so far? You are Greek, now you live in Australia. You are dealing with health, but at the same time, education. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey so far?
Okay, sure. Well, it's a long journey, but it's a journey where I'm following my dreams, as you are too, Rania, and others involved in the global community we're in. I suppose it's important to look at the roots, my roots. So yes, Greek parents, Greek values, virtues, a loving family, but a family that also allowed us, my sister and myself, the two of us as kids, to explore, to go out to the community, to seek, to do the best that we could, but to seek opportunities and not be restricted in many ways. Of course, as parents, they don't wish you to be harmed. So there were the usual types of management systems in the Greek household. But living in Australia as well, it's a wonderful country where there's it's a lot more relaxed than other parts of the world where you have political tensions, economic tensions, conflicts. And because it's a multicultural melting pot, you also mix with other people in different cultures. So the way I describe myself is to use a tree analogy, where, as you know, a tree has roots, and the roots are the values and virtues. You know, what are your key values that you have been brought up with, that you practice? And they're the roots that keep the tree stable. Even with windy days, you know, the tree stays there. Now, the competence is the trunk. So the trunk is where have you studied? What degrees have you got? What life experience do you have? What relationships do you have? That's the trunk. But the important thing now is, like in a tree, it's the branches, it's the direction that they're moving in, where they're facing towards the sun. That's how you use your values and your virtues and your competence in order to deliver what you want for the community, how you see your role in the world. So for me, I'm interested in a better world, but not just a better world in the city that I'm in, or a better world for my family, my friends, my neighborhood, my local community, but also a better world around the world. And again, family, we were always brought up with the idea that we are part of an international community. Our playground, if you will, is not the city we live in or the country. It's the planet. And we've always had that fresh outlook that you look to the entire planet, but also you have to give back, because it's not just about obtaining resources for your immediate family, but it's also about giving back to the community. And that's part of that virtue and value set, which, as you would know, Rania, the ancient Greeks were very strong at in that sense, the eudaimonia, the arete, and things of that nature. And so what's fascinating, so yes, there's been the academic stuff, the science and the law and the business, but it follows in the one direction, and that is, for me, I'd like to make the world a better place through innovation and commercialization, both for different spheres of the planet. However, what's interesting is that as we go through our life journey, I move industries, whether it's science, being a scientist, being an academic, being a lawyer, being a businessman, who knows what I'm doing next? That's the beauty. I have no idea, but the direction is the same. And that's what people, when I tell them that, they think, now I know why you're doing what you're doing, because we can take all these wonderful relationships that we have around the world, including our wonderful friendship and professional relationship with Rania. And we have thousands of people like us around the world, tens of thousands. And I get up in the morning and my WhatsApp's got 400, 500 messages, as yours does as well, I'm sure, having all sorts of interesting discussions around the world. So life's journey for me is about providing the opportunity for a better world. So we do that in business through different avenues. And the one we'll talk about today is what we do for our young, because one of my good friends, a chap called James Nixon, who recently retired as a captain of an A380 for Emirates, said he was told at school that he would amount to nothing. So all of his dreams, he said, no, you're not going to do anything. And he captures that moment as dream stealing. So these people stole my dreams and they gave me the negativity. And of course, down the track, he was strong and he did what he did. That's great. But we have to make sure that we create an environment where the young do not have their dreams squashed. And you and I know that innovation, creativity, entrepreneurship, passion are some of the core building blocks that the young need in order to catapult themselves, try different things. Some of them will come up with wonderful solutions for us, and we need them, as you know.
Wonderful said. But you're a director of APAC Health, and I think your main area of business is health. How did you get involved in the education sector? Because I see you're invited as keynote speaker everywhere, in every international educational conference. You're very active in education. So how the education sector attracted you?
I was always interested in research, always interested in teaching, and being involved at university. That interaction with students was a way for me that gave me the most comfort in communicating my interests and my values and imparting on the students some good opportunities. So even when I was in the pharmaceutical area, I'd be traveling overseas and I'd come back and the universities would call me up and say, when are you in town? Oh, I'm in town in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Can you come and have a chat to our MBA students? I said, sure. What do you want to talk about? Well, how you make decisions, how you manage innovation, how they should be thinking about corporate strategy. And I thought, oh yeah, that's a bit of fun. Now, what the university didn't know is that I would also learn a lot, because I would ask the students, what do you do? How do you make decisions? What environmental aspects do you look at? So I would then take that learning as well. So it's actually a two-way street teaching, whether you're involved in programs with the young or the old. But what's interesting with the businesses that we've been involved with, my fellow directors and shareholders, we sat down a couple of years ago and we said, okay, we're getting a little bit old in life. What contribution have we made in life to society? And my fellow directors, one of them was vice chancellor of an India university. The other one was a professor of entrepreneurship at university in Australia. So clearly the education element was an underlying element that was bubbling. And we said, hang on a second, we've got to make sure the young also are driven and become creative, because we're seeing some mediocrity and unevenness in the young, in the education curricula. Can we do something about it? And being a private company, you're not subject to government grants, you're not subject to government restrictions, you can do what you want. And that's it. And that's what we did.
I know you're very passionate in everything you do. what is passion for you and how we can keep our passion and this spark alive?
Well, that's a very hard question, but of course, we live passion. So passion for me is delivering a positive change in people around me. Now, that doesn't have to be education. It doesn't even have to be health. It could be being a good citizen to your neighbor. But what I'd like to see also is embedded change, so that you have practices which embed changes. I'll give you an example which is a little bit unrelated to what we're talking about. So during COVID, we had restrictions, and our wonderful city had the most restrictions around the world. So we have a world record, not a good one, but we did. A lot of our elderly neighbours they were not allowed to see their family because we had geographical restrictions. So they were lonely. They were sad. Their friends were having health problems and some of them were passing away. So very sad environment. Well, we said with our neighbours, when we see these elderly people, send us a message. We'll come out and we'll be socially distanced, no problem. But we'll have a chat. We will have a social connection. We will reduce the anxiety. We won't talk about COVID. We won't talk about the pandemic, but we'll create that change of communicating good concepts and issues and discussions and remembering things with our community. So that's a way that we embed changes. Now, another thing we do with our private business, again, because we're not restricted as are not-for-profits or charities or government bodies, we are able to do this, but on an international level. And because we leverage our connections, it's a lot of fun. And Rania, you know this very well. We get asked to speak at a conference, and there are people from the Middle East, Europe, Asia, China, America. And I'm sitting there learning, going, oh my God, that is so cool. And that really excites me. So usually it's late at night and everyone's at home in bed. And I'm just because, oh, look, so I'm writing that. Oh, we should be doing this. We should be doing that. So for me, it's never just what comes in, it's what comes out as well. And there's so much that we can do now through the relationships that people like you and your international leadership and the people I deal with. But you can change different elements of people's life. One is to put more food on their table. One is to give them more resources. One is education. So we, in our businesses, have said, let's not stick to one. Let's stick to as many as we can until we collapse. And that's how we do it.
You know, there is a great term that I love, the term grit. Grit consists of passion and sustained persistence applied toward long-term achievement. For instance, the demanding and uncertain entrepreneurship journey requires more passion and sustained persistence than most other activities. And this makes an entrepreneurship-focused program ideal for developing grit in our students. And I believe that passion-based learning, which is a form of self-directed learning in which the students pursue projects of interest to them. And we see that teachers who have invested in passion-based learning have discovered that students become highly motivated, highly engaged when they learn about topics that intrigue them, while taking the learning much deeper than they would in a traditional lesson. So passion-based learning, when it's led effectively, can unleash students' creativity and help them, of course, learn critically the 21st century skills, while at the same time, they can assume agency over their own learning. So we talk about young people and children. What are the dreams of young people today? What do you believe according to your experience so far?
Okay, so young kids around the world have similar dreams. They want to have experiences, positive experiences. They want to have fun. not just in a negative way, if you can have fun in a negative way, not just for short-term gratification, but sustained. They also want love. And I think spirituality, and I'm not talking about extreme religious type spirituality, I'm talking about they want to be respected, cared for. They want to care for their community. So really it's expressing the human condition, which often everyone is dampened. So the young ones in Australia or in the West generally, parents are very busy because they want to maintain a consumerist lifestyle, holidays and restaurants and lots of, food and clothing. So what that means is that the children often are told, listen, just sit in front of the television, have a little bit more time on your iPad, maybe go read a book. Don't bother us because we're busy trying to organize things. We love you, we care for you. But the child is being told their environment now is becoming more restrictive. And they don't like it. Yes, they're happy to get on their iPad, but all the research data says that's causing them anxiety. As you say, correctly pointed out in reference to grit, reduced grit. And in America, in other places, one of the outlets for the parents is medication. So these kids, a lot of them are put on medicines because of the environment that they're in. But the kids, like when we were kids, we were told, go outside, play, live, experience, do stuff. And when you provide that warm, loving environment and allow the kids to explore, they're at their best. So we grew up in an environment where parents would say, have you done your homework? Fantastic. Okay, go and do something, do whatever you want for a couple of hours. You want to go and play outside, you want to catch up with your friends down the street. And we would love that because that would force us to be resilient, develop grit, experiment, figure out what works, what doesn't work, and you would come back really happy and content. Now, these days, we hear about climate issues, environmental pollution, the kids are concerned. So the kids, being normal, balanced kids, want to contribute to improving the environment. We see that with university kids, well, not so much kids, young adults, secondary and primary school people are being told or are telling us, we want to take a more active role in being part of the solution, not just being depressed and hearing about all the negativity. So we want to come up with ideas because that would make us feel safer and more loved in our environment. So I think that's a message which a lot of politicians and community policymakers don't get. They think that putting the kids in front of a screen or getting them to play musical instruments and soccer 4 nights a week, totally exhaust them, no time for themselves, is what is beneficial for society, but I don't think it is. So that's what we're seeing in different parts of the world.
Mm-hmm. What is the ideal learning experience, the ideal learning environment for you?
I'm a little bit crazy sometimes, so ideal for me is not to be recommended for everyone. I like extremes. Sometimes I like when I'm disappointed, extremely disappointed about something, that forces me to take stock about what I'm doing and then pick another direction. It's still along the same stream, but it's just picking another path. However, I do like learning from what our ancestors have written and thought, because there's a lot of wisdom that's there, which I find is just relevant to be copy and pasted for today. So when I hear about new thinkers, I'm a little bit cautious, but when you go back to the ancestors, different cultures, the Greeks, the the Chinese, the Indian cultures. There's some magnificent wisdom learnings, and African and the Aboriginal, which we've forgotten about. So I like to draw that out and bring that in to our environment today, for me, for my staff, for my family, for my community, for the boards that I sit on. And people say, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that's the way they conceptualized education and why passion was important to bring into today. So for me, it's just spending as much time as I can on these things because I really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. So how can we help all these young minds to lead a fulfilling and meaningful life? What can we do?
That's almost a Socrates model, isn't it? Leading the meaningful life. Do you know, Rania, it's really surprising because I tell people, do you want a happy life or do you want a meaningful life? And they say, what do you mean a meaningful life? Do you want emotional intelligence or virtuous intelligence? And they say, I don't understand. I said, hang on a minute, you've been to university, you know what these words mean, and they don't. We have many mechanisms in order to assist our peers. We have many mechanisms to steer people, but not direct them solely in one area. So, for example, when I attended law school as a mature age student, a lot of the students there were extremely intelligent. They came in straight from high school, very smart. And I asked them, why are you doing law? What is it about law? What do you want to change in the law? What do you see as your drive? And 99% said, well, my dad's a judge, my mum's a lawyer, our families are lawyers. My family said to me, you've got to do law to run the business. And I said, yeah, but what do you want to do with it? I'm not asking about that. What do you? And they said, we don't know. I said, you're kidding me. You've worked so hard. You're doing a hard course. It's a very competitive, adversarial course. It's not a happy course. And you don't have a particular direction. Yet the 1% that do, they say, right, I'm interested in banking. I'm interested in social causes. I'm interested in international refugees. And you know what? I look at them now, 20 years later. And guess what? The ones who said, I'm interested in social causes are leading the social causes. The ones who said, I'm not too sure, mum and dad, they've left the law. They're looking after, they're wealthy, obviously, but they're just sitting at home being what I would consider wasted almost effort. So the way to draw meaningfulness is to look at the child, because children have different strengths, different ways of communicating, different interests. And depending when you get to see them, you'll find that some kids are more technical. I mean, one of our friends is a cardiothoracic surgeon, lovely lady. I asked her, so when did you realize that you were going to become a surgeon? And she said, oh, that was way, 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 way later. I said, so what caused you to direct yourself there? And she said, when I was a young child, my dad would give me, I used to work on electric circuits, and I used to make the circuits with iron and lead and soldering. And I loved that little technical thing. And who would have thought that would have led to her being a surgeon? So there are particular modalities in how children experience and express themselves. Some kids they're more expressive, like dramatic, and whereas others are more technical, others sit there writing. You've got to work with that, and you've got to give them options and allow them to make the decisions as to what their area is. And it's stepping stones, and you don't necessarily know where they're going to be, but you just want to give them the next stepping stone where they come up with their creativity. I mean, some of the children, for example, that I know, very quiet children, you ask them, oh, what are you doing? What do you like? Oh, I like this. Well, give me an example. Oh, I like writing. Well, if you were to write something, what would you write about? Would you write about this and that and flowers or, and then they'd open up, because all of a sudden they have an adult that listens to them and an adult that empowers them to express themselves. And after about half an hour, you can't stop them talking. I've seen it again and again. Different cultures, doesn't matter what your background is. As soon as you give them that, the children run in a particular direction. So that's been our experience in giving children opportunities. And it's not about simple, okay, now go and play a game. They don't want to do that. They're interested in you assisting them to drive them into the area that they like.
In your lectures, often you highlight the importance of community in the learning process. So why community-based learning is important, why it's becoming more and more popular among learning theories today. Unfortunately, in Greece, it's not very well developed. But why do you think, from your experience, that community-based learning could be efficient in the learning process?
The community, that's interesting. And I'll tell you why. There's two areas. So our business, we have 3 generations of staff. We have the young university graduates. We have between that sort of age until about the 50. And then we have the 50 to 75 to 80. And that's our little community. The reason we have that community is that it enables my group, the middle group, to learn from the young ones. I have no idea how the young ones think. They are, in a different planet. Beautiful people, different planet, but I need that generational context for what we do. The older group, the 60s and 70s and 80s, and now 90s, we've got people in their 90s involved. They give us wisdom and past history that we had no idea about. So then that's one element. Now, how does that, we've used those groups in order to develop our programs that we have for the young. But to answer your question, community-based learning is very important because the children or the young see their role in society. It's part of a respect model. It's also part of a competence model, because as you deal with different parts of the community, your linguistics has to change. Your skills have to change because other parts of the community have expectations that you will conduct yourself in a particular way. So that forces the young ones to develop their skills really quickly, a lot faster than they would in the classroom. Now, also being part of the community, when people who are more senior say to you, to the young ones, well, that's great, but have you thought about doing it this way? Or let me show you what happens, blah, blah, blah. Or what you've done is really good. Let's go and communicate it to the other part of the community. And the other part of the community says, well done. The younger ones see their role in society. And in fact, they mimic what they want to do in life because they see a path and they really enjoy it. So I think community-based learning, which is probably the way learning was done many years ago anyway, is the future. But we also want to have an international element, because that blows the minds of the kids. It's one thing to say you're going to have a project, at your school, in your local community, where you're going to have people there from different age groups. But if someone says you're also going to have an interaction with people overseas whilst you're in where you are, they can't believe it. They say that is just That's crazy. And that empowers them, we found, just that international element, more than almost, logarithmically more than having just the local community project. That's why for us, one of our core directives with one of our programs is there must be an international focus. And when we tell the kids that, it takes, they think, oh no, this is not real. But when then we tell them how it's going to work, they get very excited because they're doing stuff that no one else would allow them to do. And they're very excited about it. And of course, being community, parents agree, their ecosystem agrees. They go back to their school, they communicate it, their two teachers are excited, they speak at conferences. All of a sudden, you've got fascinating characters. And I don't know where they're going to develop to, no idea. But that's not the point for me. I don't think that's important. The point is that they see themselves having a meaningful path and not just wasting time on computer games, for gamification reasons.
The community-based learning is also related to volunteerism, which is very, very important. Unfortunately, in Greece, you know very well, we haven't this culture of volunteerism. Very recently, it was inserted in the new community discipline by our minister, but there are many efforts that are being done, but unfortunately, it's not developed, at least here in Greece. I believe that students, even in preschool age, should be inculcated these values of volunteerism. We'll have to learn about the values of compassion, of trust, of altruism. And school should play a very important role in this. So community-based learning is related to this. It requires the involvement of all key stakeholders outside of the school, the collaboration of even with companies, even with private sector, government, parents, or everything which is outside the classroom.
Rania,
community-based learning.
You're absolutely correct.
This is how they will acquire the global citizenship and how they will become active citizens.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. 100%. We're finding that young graduates are now part of the attraction for an employer. Let me take a step back. Young ones, I said, think differently. Employers construct their business and their recruiting and their compensations based on a different model. What we're finding in the last 5 years is that the kids that are graduating are being offered a position and they're asking in the interview, what is it that you do for social causes? And the employer typically says, oh, we provide X amount of money, we're sponsors of. And the kids say, well, that's not good enough. And the employers say, what do you mean it's not good enough? You get to select, we vote amongst our employees, which charities. They say, no, I want to work as part of my employment with your company. I want you to give me half a day a week. And I want to work as a volunteer. You're going to pay my salary, but I'm working as a volunteer for the local community project, whatever it is. But it must be one that makes an impact. I'm not going to sit in an office. If we're providing food for the needy, if we're working in aged care, I'm going to be in there. And the employers don't know how to handle this. Saying, really? But why don't we just give them money and I have you in the office working for me? And the kids say, no, don't want to do it. Now, that's the post-university crowd. On the secondary and primary, we're still quite slow here in Australia compared to where I'd like to be. But there are schools that are embedded with local communities. For example, I sit on the board of an independent school. It's a Greek Orthodox school, but it teaches in English, but it's got the Orthodoxy values. They have relationships with nursing homes. They have relationships with drug addiction rehabilitation centres. And so they are immersed and are involved in helping out. That's really cool. Now, we didn't have that as kids. Didn't have it at all at school. So it's slow, it's starting, and the young ones are hungry for it. And the way that education was siloed from the community with that fence, now the community is saying, we want the school kids to have a closer involvement with us. And the school's saying, oh, okay, I can see the value of that. So a lot of the schools, predominantly the private or the independent, and we have a lot of private schools in Australia, they are developing programs into the community. And what the students are finding, and the school is finding, that it is more rewarding than sitting in class or sitting in the science lab, writing an essay or, looking at geography studies or, social studies. There's more passion, but also empowerment, and it increases the practical academic skills as well as these students. So the teachers are saying, I can see the value of this for our branding of the school. The community says, I can see the value of this because the kids are helping out. And the kids are saying, I can see the value of this because it's making me a more holistic person and enables me to more earlier identify the path that I want to take. So I think it's a great time, Rania. We have to keep pushing, but it's a good time.
You also mentioned in your presentations that everyone is a potential genius. Can you explain this to us?
Oh, listen, we're constantly surprised at the level of ingenuity that these kids come up with. One of the kids said, my dad keeps putting covers over the plants during hot days in summer because the leaves burn. We said, yep, okay, yes, some days are really hot and the leaves get burnt, sure. He says, why doesn't somebody develop sunscreens for plants? Just you put sunscreen on your skin so you don't get burnt. Do the same for plants. I said, my God, that's such an obvious idea. So I spoke to a few chemists and they said, oh, which academic came up with that idea? I said, an academic, 5-year-old. That's a good idea. So often if you ask kids to come up with solutions or designs or, how do you think we should do this? As soon as you open up that mind, they come up with solutions. You think, all right, we'll give that a go. And then they get very excited. Oh, really? You mean something I said you're going to try? Kids, but some kids do this on a compassionate, caring level. So when they see someone sad, they might go and hold their hand, especially if they see old people sad. So you can see that level of compassion and that understanding of this is what we need in order to manage this person. And as soon as you say that's a good thing, you've done well, then the next time they'll do something else. They might go and, I don't know, get them a glass of water or something. And then it's like, a ball running down the hill. They just come up with more and more ideas and they build their shell of competence in this level of ingenuity. So we're seeing it all the time. Different things with different kids. And if you ask them, it's like a little spark. As soon as you see a spark, you want to try and make it bigger and bigger by increasing their exposure in that particular area. Some will be compassion, some will be not engineering, but problem solving. Some will be design. Some will be talking, drama, dancing. Great, fantastic. I mean, we've had kids who are extrovert and their parents say, oh, stop it, be quiet. And we say, no, hang on a second. Dance, do this, do that. And then they do that, provide a little show at the local aged care facility to elderly people. And they're loving it. And then at school, they're getting involved in drama. The school loves it. The school says, I had no idea that this person, they've come out of their shell. Well, yes, but when you see it, you've got to just open it up a little bit. You can't open it up fully. Over time, encourage it. And before you know it, you've got a little monster, whatever the monster is, a little monster. But they're all like that. They're all like that. I think, and it doesn't matter. We've seen this in Africa. We've seen it in Europe. We've seen it in Asia, Australia. The kids are
So
kids.
how we can empower innovation in youth? Is it possible?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And they love a challenge. Kids love a challenge. What kids hate is when you say, no, you can't do it. Go and sit down. Go and, go back to your desk because you're bothering me. You're bothering the class. The answer is yes, of course it can be done, but the teaching style needs to change. And I saw this when I was teaching one of my subjects in MBA, the innovation management. I had to, and it's quite difficult actually, because normal teaching, or not normal, traditional teaching, very simple. You get up in the front, you say a few words, show a few slides, a couple of questions, done. But this type of teaching, you have to know the strength of each child in your class or your group. You have to know what their environment is, their family, their community. You've got to know what their passion is. And you have to give tasks during the class to each of these people to take them along their little journey of innovation. And you've got to help them along the journey. Some of them might work in groups, 2 or 3. Others will be individual. So for example, my son's school, there are many different characters. There are kids from very wealthy families. There are kids who are not socially connected, but they've got YouTube channels. There are kids who are great at sport. There are kids who love writing, So what the school does, to its credit, is that they have developed programs for each of these categories to extend the kids. It's not about being average. It's about, oh, are you good at that? Fantastic. We'll make you head of that. Are you good at that? Great. What do you need to do? Are you good at that? Fantastic. We'll have additional programs for you. Now, that's not easy to do. It's another way of reorganizing the teaching structure, but it's not magic either. So once you've taught the teacher and the school provides the framework, and you communicate with the parents saying, listen, these are the sorts of programs you have, you'll be really surprised because the parents are quite supportive as well with this. So I'm very positive about providing innovative structures and entrepreneurship for kids as well. But you can't just stop at the end of the class. You can't. Entrepreneurs are people who they've got to have a pathway. So there has to be, it's like part of a supply chain. You've got to have community involvement, others involved, in order to provide them the continuity of growth. If you don't, then you've lost it. And it's not a good program at all.
Mm-hmm. So tell me now, how Young Dream Creators program was created? What is the catalyst behind this program? And what are the gaps of the educational system in Australia that we're trying to fill through this program?
Okay, so the catalyst was when we created the company Global Opportunities Commercialization. That was one of the areas we wanted to tackle, to change the mindset of the young. Now, did we know we were going to create that particular program and have it all structured in our head? No. But that's the good thing about experimentation. We don't know what's going to happen, Rania. We are never set with a path, because, as you know, with entrepreneurs, we're all over the place: left, right, straight, backwards, forwards, upwards, downwards. However, what's interesting is that we connected with young professionals, adult professionals, who also had the vision, the same vision. And we sat down and we said, and everyone had an equal say. It wasn't a case of senior, junior, owner, director, doesn't matter. What should we do? And we had a very robust discussion. We said, okay, how should we do it? Should we do it in a private format, totally after school? Should we do it in a program which we have in Australia where often kids are dropped to school before they start because parents have to go to work early, so they might drop them in an hour earlier. Often kids are picked up an hour or two after school because parents are working and they can't get there. So what do? Do we have a morning school, after school, private program? What are the restrictions on our creativity? Because with anything, when you're looking at systematizing, you kill a lot of the flexibility because you've got time constraints, cost constraints, expectation constraints, maybe even legal constraints. So we had to balance how do we provide a program which gives maximum benefit that we think, but also a pathway. And we found that the school program provides a basic level. The non-school program is where we can go absolutely crazy and provide even follow-on services. So instead of just the 10-week program, they can finish from that and they can continue their project 6 months, a year, 2-3 years later, doesn't matter. But the key is the people. We've got great people, Dr. Ria Ertz that you know, Sasha Kaluri, Andrew Gavigan, Janelle Sabillo, and a whole host of others.
And what are the main the main components? I think it's the nationalization. Huh?
Oh, okay. So the main components of the program.
Of the program, I think it's how to.
Okay, so the first thing you've got to do, we actually created like a management program. We have the ideation, the creativity element, where we sit down, a couple of us sit down with the student, or students, could be a group, and we try and figure out what their passion is. In the beginning, everyone says, I don't know. What do you like doing? I don't know. What do you do at home? I don't know. I play a game. Okay, good. Yeah. What else? So you got to draw it out. You got to really draw it out. Do you like? So we give them questions. Do you like sport? Do you like the internet? Who's your favorite? Well, film's your favorite. Favorite film. That sort of very boring stuff. Because we want to try and create a thread. We want to start somewhere. And often we might even ask the parents, what are your kids like? Now, problem is the parents have no idea generally of what the kids really like, but they might put us in the direction. Let's just say they've given us a few ideas. Then we say, oh, listen, would you like, and then we've got to come back really quickly, not a week later, but almost within minutes. Would you like a program? How do you feel about doing something like this, and this? But speaking to people around the world and having, discussions or helping you design stuff. Oh, well, that sounds really cool. Okay, good. So maybe we have the first project. Oh, what about if we were to do it this way, and then with that way, and then add this as well, and find 2 or 3 people overseas that you can speak to. Oh, that sounds really good too. So we'd come up with 4 suggestions. They'd say, that sounds really good. And then we'd have to try and nut it down to what can be done within a defined period of time. Of course, parents are involved in the background. Then we say, okay, we have to come up with a viable project that can deliver both an outcome, doesn't have to finish, but an outcome, but that there's a learning mechanism as well. So there's almost a project management plan, which says, right, okay, week 1 is the idea, week 2, defining the project and structuring roughly with the kids. week 3, 4, 5, 6 is running the program with international inputs. So it's quite intensive, very high touch. Then it's okay, we've got to compile the data. And that's really hard for the kids because that reminds them of boring homework at school. So we have to do it in a fun way. Oh, okay, let's just, put it up on a whiteboard. What happened? Oh, so-and-so. Okay, good, that's over there. What happened there? Oh, so-and-so. Okay, can you take that information, put it in a table, make it nice? Because what we're going to do then is present it to your mum and dad. Oh, really? Yeah. And to the people overseas and using the electronic resources, WhatsApp or whatever. And then the parents say, oh my God, you did that? Really? Oh, you did that? Oh, wow. But we say to the parents, listen, don't be negative, be positive. Oh, fantastic. Well done. Oh my God, I had not. Wow, that's really cool. All of a sudden, and then we say to the child, what do you want to do next at the end of the program? Because they know it's going to be the end of the program, but it's not really the end because this is a journey for them. What do you want to do next? And they say, well, how about we continue this? And then we might say, how about you find 5 people around the world that do something similar, and then you write a book about it, or you do a film about it, or you do something, or and they get really excited. They're amazed. And then if they communicate it back to the school, or if we get them to speak at forums around the world, they're blown away. What do you mean you want me to speak at a conference in Africa? Yeah, just get up and speak about what you did. Oh, really? Would they want to hear from me? Yeah. Just in your own words, we'll help you prepare what the messages are, the 4 or 5 slides. And they do it and they say, oh my God. And they feel as though they're 10 foot taller. That's what we want. And then for us, it becomes part of a family. So we don't say goodbye and nice to see you. It's part of a community. Bang, 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 bang.
All the skills and, of course, as you mentioned, the entrepreneurship education, which cultivates innovative talents, which are important driving force for future development and prepares the student for an uncertain future, leaves room for creativity and collaboration, and of course encourages creativity, innovation, teaches problem identification, because students need to learn how to identify problems before they learn how to solve them. So problem solving, I think, has been taught already in schools for decades, but the same cannot be said for problem identification. Hopefully in Greece, our minister has integrated the new cognitive discipline said before, which is called labs of skills, and the entrepreneurship is integrated optionally in primary secondary education. So it's a big step also for Greece. So the entrepreneurship education is very, very important. And I have seen some activities about environment. I think something about recycling, something like that, how to reduce the waste. I have seen some activities of this program.
Well, what's happened there is that we found that different ages of students, different maturity, if you will, are able to connect with community issues. So the younger ones are still very much discovering the internet and sport and a little bit of stuff like that. The high school ones are bombarded with social justice issues, and one of them is the climate. So we had one girl and her friends who said, we want to find out what our impact can be and what project we can have. So they said, well, let's look at compost. We have compost at home, we have compost at school. And, obviously you put stuff in, you wait for a particular period of time, then you have an output and you use it for the garden, etc. Okay, great. And this is where the smart element was. Compost produces gases. Why not separate the gases, and one of the gases we will feed back in to the school for use in the science labs and also for cooking. Now, when that came to us, I thought, my God, that's really cool. But we're not engineers. But see, this is the beauty of us. We don't care about that. We know people who know people who know people, and they're the right people. So we told this story to our friends here and overseas, and they said, oh my God, that's really cool. Give me a few days. And then they asked someone, and they asked someone, and all of a sudden we're dealing with people in Europe, in Australia, engineering associations who are saying, we want to help these kids because it's really cool. It's a great idea. Now, the kids themselves had no idea that all this excitement was being developed overseas and then, directed back to them. So then, because they were a bit older in high school, they were told, listen, you've got to do some maths. You've got to do a lot of research on what's available, how systems work. And that's how that project is developing, meeting with people from scientific organizations, kids getting really empowered, school giving them a lot of credibility and endorsement, the community, their families giving them endorsement. So that's the way we see this moving forward. Now, whether the project is done or not is not, for me, that important, or whether it's done this year, next year, year after, it doesn't matter. Because I've said to them, guys, if you can do this project, I'm going to commercialize it around the world, both for private home use and also for commercial use and for education, schools, whatever. So they were amazed that their idea with a lot of R&D can lead to 4 or 5 different avenues globally. This could be a several $100 million business very easily, from my perspective. But for the students, the fact that they had a social cause, the fact that they had this idea that they stuck with, because people could have easily said, no, not going to happen. Sorry, no, that's ridiculous. Sorry, you're going to be in university in 3 years. No. That was really important for them, that community endorsement. And having a group like us, we played our little bit, but we're part of a big whole. So stay tuned, because I think this project in a couple of years, they're going to continue with it. Even if it's just a side interest, they'll continue with it. We'll support them.
What's the progress so far? What are the results so far? What is the feedback that you get?
Oh, okay. So they're doing a lot of research at the moment. They've got examples of models from overseas that will work. They now need to do some more research and then start getting engineers to construct the system. So they're close. They're close. Mm-hmm. We'll keep you updated.
Why do you think that we need to give global opportunities to youth? Why the nationalization is important in education?
Sorry, why globalization?
The nationalization of global opportunities are important for youth, especially for students and university students.
Yeah. Okay. The reason why the international element is critical, I would say more than important, critical, is because they get to see the impact in other parts of the world, the relevance of their project. Sometimes in your part of the world, maybe it's not that relevant because it's too difficult. But if you can see, if somebody can show you that that project would help people in another part of the world quickly, and now, that makes a big difference. And students wake up thinking, okay, well, it's not about my city, my town, my country, it's about the world. And with globalization and the way things are at the moment, you can easily have projects in different parts of the world. Pandemic has given us a very unusual lesson, which I never expected. There are people who are graduating in one country, and not just customer service, phone, things like that. They are providing services to companies. Their employer is in another country, their direct employer. They are providing services in other countries whilst they're at home on their via their keyboards and so forth. This is a big change to how the future, one element of future of work. That means that there's potential for the company to have more clients in different parts of the world because their employees are in different parts of the world. And the students, the graduates, the employees, the business people can see that what they're doing here in Greece, in Australia, can very quickly be adopted across the world. So I think that's a very good platform for a mindset.
Mm-hmm. What are the next plans of global opportunities commercialization? Short-term plans.
Oh yeah, exactly. Medium, long term, I have no idea. But that's the beauty. That's the beauty. See, what we do in our business is that we bring in staff, find people, different parts of the world who have a passion, and we build a business around their passion. We don't build a business and then try and bring people in. We think that works well for bigger companies, but for small companies, we can be extremely innovative. It's fascinating. What we're doing at the moment is fascinating. We're involved with projects in renewable energy and in clean energy, where we're looking at wind turbines instead of the horizontal big ones, vertical little ones. So we are connecting through our networks. We're connecting with some really innovative, internationally competitive technologies on the one hand. On the other hand, we've got access to people with money and people with expertise and people with clients. We want to put them together quickly. That's our key. But what we're also doing is that we want to make sure that if we like the technology, that it is embedded into use across a community. What happens at the moment is that people find technologies, people find money, they get them together, good luck, and then 10 years down the track, it's not being used. Why? Because it's not embedded into the community and through political systems. So I think the next part of the short-term part of our business is to connect innovations that will change people's lives. Because this wind turbine can be used in the Philippines to reduce diesel use in remote places. Connect it with smart money, but political connections and good people to make sure that it is used across both commercial and social enterprises and communities. So I think we've just got to focus on that. In addition to the youth stuff, that stuff will happen on its own, but we need to get that embedded in.
I know you're doing a lot of charities. Do you want to tell us something about this? How many years?
Charity. Oh, lots of years. I mean, charities are good for a number of reasons. Yes, you're helping the local community. We can now leverage what you said earlier, Rania. We can leverage the volunteer class. There's an entire new class of people that want to be volunteers. We can leverage them to look at problems that charities often don't look at. How do we look after mental challenges now that everyone's got through COVID? How are we doing that? And not just people who are extremely disadvantaged. How about the others? How about that's not touched? Big problem. Compassion, caring, the stuff that our parents used to do with their local communities. That's not being done now. So there's a role for charities to do that. And some of the charities I'm involved with have an international element, such as Rotary. So the good thing about the Rotary Club I'm at, Rotary Melbourne, is that they have the power and the network that if something works really well locally, it can be taken globally very quickly. It can be scaled up, not by them, through regional Rotary, international Rotary, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a platform. So we're getting a lot of young people in, a lot of young people that want impact. And I think the short-term gratification market is coming into charities, but which is a good thing and a bad thing. But that means volunteers, hands on the ground, and we're getting a new generation that is internationally smart, has exposure, but still wants to help the local communities. What those people that are coming in need is people with high humanity and caring and compassion skills or expertise. Bring them together, you'll do something. Because as you know, a lot of charities, they have beautiful buildings, they have beautiful, events, but they don't have the people that they are involved with. We want to reverse that.
So what is your message today to all these young people, all these young entrepreneurs who want to get more motivated in learning or doing wonderful things? What is your message?
My message is very simple. There are people out there that care for you, your innovations. There's a stack of money out there. There's a stack of people that need help. So you come and join our families, such as where you are, Rania, at the International Internship University. Excellent platforms. There are I'd say hundreds of thousands of people that want to be part of this supply chain around the world and can do it. So the future is very bright. It is different to what the traditional path was a generation ago. But you as young entrepreneurs now have role models around the world, which we didn't have, and it'll only get better. So there's an entire community ecosystem of support available now for you. It'll get better for your grandchildren, but it is there now. Sorry, not a simple message, a long message, but it's saying that the environment is extremely positive for you to be supported, looked after, cared for, respected, in order to bring your innovations to the globe.
Mm-hmm. So I think that the message of all this discussion today is that we need passion. We need this spark to keep us alive. We need to envision a better world, more fair world for a more sustainable future and development. We need to empower youth in innovation, creativity. And thank you so much, Chris, for this powerful and very, very explanative, very informative presentation. We have learned so much from you. We have given us many ideas. You have inspired us, especially when it comes to social causes and charities and all these experiences that you have shared with us. We always learn from you. Thank you very much, and I wish you all the best for all your future endeavors.
Thank you, Rania. Thank you very much as well. You should be honored with all of your achievements as well. Magnificent over the last couple of years that I've known you. And I look forward to seeing you face to face very
Hope to
soon.
see you in Greece.
Yes,
likewise.
And likewise to invite you down here to Australia and to see the kangaroos and the koalas and all the good stuff that we've got here as well. And to speak to our community and give them your learnings as well, because that's really important. It's part of what we've all got to do. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, our second session has finished. I think it was a very, very powerful discussion today. I'm very, very excited and hope to see you in our third session. Stay tuned with the National Internship University. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye. Bye.